hearty welcome everyone to Taroko Railways, and today we're going to look at the LMS Coronation class. Now looking at the front of the locomotive, we can see the buffer stops as well as the piping in front and the connector, and as well this loco came with an additional bogie as a spare and some other extras in the additional accessory packet. And as you can see, the streamlining coming to a V at the end on the front of this locomotive just makes it kind of like a dolphin look, and just promise that speed, when you are traveling on this train. In the middle of the train we can see the beautiful blue wheels, paintwork done on them, as well as the name of the locomotive, the Coronation. Now making our way back to the cab of the locomotive, right before the tender, we can see the glazed windows on the cab, and then moving along we can see the streamline effect on the loco with the racing stripes, and we can also see the cab finishes here that have been imprinted by Hornby, and a person can actually paint them if you would like to change that, but it's great to have that. So great little finishes here, a lot of details on this locomotive, and it runs like a dream. And also below the cab windows we can see the locomotive number nicely applied in the LMS silver color, and then also the handrails are quite visible. So now looking at the tender, we can see the step finishes at the wheel arrangement, as well as the connector for the locomotive, as well as the handrails and the coal shoe, as well as the LMS streamline that continues all the way through to the tender, and obviously the LMS naming that's also nicely applied. And the coal on the top looks generally nicely finished, and realistic look for this loco as well. And bear in mind, this is not one of the latest versions of Hornby, it's quite an older model. Now I ran this Coronation train with the original LMS coaches, but coming back to what I've said in episode 5 and episode 4 as well as episode 3 with regards to the LMS coaches and the models that's being built, you get different color inside finish, and that will be the other lighter white color finish which is built in Great Britain, or the brownish color which is built in China. And looking at the examples that I've got here, you will make out which ones are the darker toned interior and which are the lighter toned interiors. Now on the top view of the loco you can also see the chimney, as well as the safety valves and the whistle, and it is also made out of brass, so you can actually fold them up or fold them down, the whistle, to protect it. Now looking at the locomotive on the layout, it really just brings that aspect of power, glory and speed to the layout. And like I mentioned, I do have 6 coaches that I pull on this locomotive, and I had 8 coaches, but I sold 2 off to a friend that he was struggling to get coaches, so I had to sell them off. And also it makes the train fit nicer on the layout with only 6 coaches. And that's one thing a person needs to think of when you do run your locomotives on your layout, is how big is your layout and how many coaches can you actually handle on the layout that it won't look too much of an overly done situation. But having said that, it's now time for our favorite part of the episode where we delve into the history of this LMS Coronation locomotive. LMS Coronation Class 6220 Coronation is a streamlined condition blue livery locomotive. The LMS class number 6220, later in British Railways number 46220, a British steam locomotive. Now in real life, number 6220 was built in 1937 at Crewe Works, the first of its class of streamlined locomotives. It, along with others, were given a special livery of Caledonian Railway blue with Go Faster stripes instead of the more conventional red. During a press run on 29 June 1937, locomotive number 6220, the locomotive we have here on the layout today, set a new speed record on the West Coast Main Line. Driver T.J. Clark and fireman C. Lewis, with Robert Riddles, engineer, and Inspector S. Miller on the footplate, pushed the Stanier Pioneer to a claimed speed of 114 miles per hour on Madeley Bank south of Crewe, which broke the previous record of 113 miles per hour set by the rival LNER. However, the celebration was premature as the footplate team realized the train was still making 110 miles per hour only a mile and a half from Crewe station. Urgent braking improvement matters, but the locomotive passed through the station's reverse curves at 57 miles per hour while in excess of 20 miles per hour limit. The resultant buffeting alarmed the passengers and knocked loose various dishes and utensils in the dining coach. And what I've read up on the British Speed Record edition, between 1937 and 1939, their version of this speed that was achieved, 2 significant records were set by locomotives of the Coronation class. Before the introduction of the Coronation Scot service, number 6220 Coronation headed a special train of invited guests from London, Euston to Crewe on 29 June 1937. After a fast but uneventful run, the engine was accelerated up to a high speed just south of Crewe. The train disputably achieved a speed of 114 miles per hour, that is 183 kilometers per hour, narrowly beating the previous British record for a steam locomotive held by the London and North Eastern Railway LNER. The brakes were applied far too late at such a speed, and the result was the train entered a series of crossover points at Crewe much too fast. Fortunately, Stanier had designed an inherently stable locomotive, and both Coronation and its following train held the rails. Although most of the crockery in the dining car was smashed, much of the consternation of the assembled guests. In contrast to the LNER's record-breaking effort the previous year, when A4 class number 2512 had suffered severe damage when the center cylinder's big and bearing failed, number 6220 was undamaged and was driven back to London the same day at an average speed of 79 miles per hour, maintaining over 100 miles per hour for several times. The LNER was to regain its ascendancy on 3 July 1938 when A4 class number 4468 Mallard regained the British and world records with a recorded maximum speed of 126 miles per hour. The London, Midland and Scottish Railway LMS Coronation class is a class of express passenger steam locomotives designed by William Stanier. They were an enlarged and improved version of his previous design. The LMS Princess Royal class on its test were some of the most powerful steam locomotives ever used in Britain at 2.5 511 dphp. The locomotives were specifically designed for power as it was intended to use them on express services between London, Euston and Glasgow Central. Their duties were to include the hauling of a proposed non-stop express subsequently named the Coronation Scot. The first 10 locomotives of the Coronation class were built in a streamlined form in 1937 by the addition of a steel streamlined casing. 5 of these 10 were specifically set aside to pull the Coronation Scot. Although a later batch of 5 unstreamlined locomotives was produced in 1938, most of the ensuing Coronation class were outshopped as streamliners. From 1944 until production ended in 1948, all new engines were built in unstreamlined form, and all the streamliners had their casings removed. The last of the 38 locomotives were completed in 1948. The Coronation class was probably painted in more styles of livery than any of the other engine class. 7 in the LMS era up to 1947 and 5 more during the British Railways era from 1948 onwards. That does not mean that all 38 locomotives were painted in all these different styles. Many were specific to just a few engines. The only style that all 38 bore was the British Railways lined locomotive green, and the entire class was turned out thus between 1955 and 1958. It was customary on all British mainline journeys to change engines and convenient locations to avoid the lengthy process of recalling. The Coronation locomotives were therefore strategically stationed at key points between London and Glasgow, and they would be assigned to the shed at that location. The chosen locomotives and chosen locations were at London Camden Shed, Crewe North, Carlisle, Upperby, Glasgow, and it was only in the later days of steam that the mix of shed assignments became more fluid. Locomotive number 6220 that we have on the layout here, Coronation, held the British speed record between 1937 and 1938, 114 miles per hour. It held the record until beaten by the 4468 Mallard in 1938. In 1939, locomotive 6220 temporarily swapped identities with 6229 Duchess of Hamilton. The new Coronation was sent on tour to America for the World's Fair. There was thus a blue 6229 Duchess of Hamilton in Great Britain and a red 6220 Coronation in the United States. On the return of the engine from North America, their identities were swapped back again. Locomotive 6220 swapped its single chimney for a double chimney in December 1944. The streamlining was removed for maintenance reasons in September 1946, and smoke deflectors were installed during maintenance. It was painted LMS 1946 black livery in September 1947, followed by BR Standard Express Blue from January 1950 to April 1952. It was painted BR Green in April 1952, and locomotive 46220 remained in semi-streamlined form with sloping smokebox from front until February 1957, when a round-topped smokebox was fitted. Locomotive 46220 was never painted maroon and was in BR green when it was withdrawn. 46220 was withdrawn in 1963 and scrapped at Crewe Works. And here we can see a member of the prestige LMS Coronation class concierge service on the first class locomotive. And also on the layout, I have these crew members assisting on the station platform. Of the 38 original members of the Coronation class, only 3 locomotives have been preserved, albeit in very different ways. 2 of the 3 preserved engines have even run on the main line in preservation, these being 46229 and 46233. As of 2019, only 6233 is operational and has a valid mainline certificate. One member, number 46243, City of Lancaster, was the subject of an unsuccessful preservation attempt by Peter Beat. So the current 3 locomotives in preservation is the Duchess of Hamilton, the Duchess of Sutherland, and the City of Birmingham. So the 1930s saw the creation of some most famous and powerful locomotives in Great Britain. Amongst them, the LMS Princess Coronation Class 6220, the locomotive we have on the layout, which stands out as a symbol of British engineering excellence. Built in 1937, this magnificent steam train once set the record for high-speed rail travel. Built at Crew Works, designed by William Stanier, it became the first locomotive in the series with a streamlined body shape. The record-breaking run was a testament to the skill and dedication of the railway workers who designed, built and operated it. It also demonstrated the potential of steam power to achieve extreme speeds. Also to take note is that in 1944 up to 1957, the LMS Princess Coronation Class Locomotive 6220 underwent a transformation of new double pipe, removal of the fairing, installation of smoke deflectors, new colours, and during its years of operation, Coronation continued to serve as a workhorse for the LMS, hauling prestigious trains such as the Coronation Scot and Royal Scot. It was a reliable and powerful locomotive. However, the advent of diesel and electric locomotives in the post-war years eventually led to the retirement of steam engines, and in 1963, our beloved locomotive we have here on the layout, LMS Princess Coronation Class 6220, made its last voyage before being withdrawn from service. Unfortunately, the locomotive was destroyed at Crew Works. And now just a few notes for your hobbyists that love the models, some history on the models. Hornby developed the first model of the class in double O gauge for the 00 range in 1948, representing 6231, the Duchess of Atholl. It was modelled with heavy die-cast Mazak body and chassis with tin plate tender and finished in LMS Crimson Lake livery. Motive power was via 12V DC electric motor from Hornby's 3-rail track system. In 1953, smoke deflectors were added to the model, which was re-livered in BR Loco dark green and released as 46232, the Duchess of Montrose. In 1959, the model was comprehensively retooled and released in both 3-rail and, for the first time, 2-rail versions, 46247 City of Liverpool and 46245 City of London, respectively, in BR maroon livery with LMS style lining. These locomotives had split footplates representing the de-streamlined versions of the locomotives, albeit with the full cylindrical smoke boxes of the later rebuilds. After the collapse of Meccano Limited Empire, which was obviously also owned by the Lyons brothers, Wren acquired Hornby's doubler tooling and continued to produce a variety of locomotives of the class in various liveries using the city body from 1969 until the early 1990s. In 1970, Trying Hornby produced a double-O gauge model of the streamlined locomotives, which utilized the tender base of the old Hornby double-O model with a new polystyrene plastic body and a new Trying chassis. Hornby Railways have continued to release many incarnations of the class in both streamlined and conventional forms up to the present day. White metal and brass kits have been produced by various manufacturers including Kaiser, Jameson, Anchorage and DJH, who have offered streamlined and conventional outlines in a variety of gauges. LMS Princess Coronation Class 6220 remains a beloved symbol of British steam locomotive heritage to this day. Its stunning speed record in 1937 marked the pinnacle of the steam power era and demonstrated the engineering and excellence of its time. So there you have it. It serves as a reminder of bygone era of steam, a time when locomotives, like themselves, were kings of the rails. Thank you everyone for joining me once again at Taraka Railways for the history on the LMS Princess Coronation Class 6220. And you all take care until next time. All my best. Regards, Elizabeth.